Hi everyone, welcome to another fourth grade lesson today. My name is Amber Smith and I work at Finch Elementary School in Spokane Public Schools, and I'm excited that I get to work with you today. This lesson is for fourth graders, but anyone is welcome to join and to learn with us. Today we're going to be talking about division models, and we're going to be specifically talking about using the place value chart, which is something you might have learned in earlier years, but we're going to talk about using it to divide larger numbers. We're also going to show the connection to the standard algorithm for division. Although you're not expected to master that yet, it is a good thing for you to see and to start to understand. So get your pencil, paper, and your fabulous brain ready, and we'll begin. Today we're going to talk about dividing larger numbers with a strategy of using the place value chart, and we're also going to connect it to the standard algorithm for division. Before we get started, I want to make sure you understand some vocabulary for division. When we're talking about division, this is known as the dividend, so the number that you're going to be dividing. The number that you're dividing by is called the divisor, so that's how many groups you're breaking it up into. And then the answer is called the quotient. It's important for you to know those vocabulary terms when we talk about division so you know what numbers we're talking about. Let's get started with a few practice problems. So we're going to start off with the problem 426 divided by 3. And we're going to talk about how can I use the place value model, so a place value chart, to help me solve this. So you probably know from your younger years that we used a chart like this quite often to show the value of numbers in different place values. And so we'd put all the hundreds in this one area. So you might write the word hundreds there, but I'm just put it H for hundreds. This is where the tens would go. So you might write out the word tens. And this is where the ones would go. So we're going to show on the place value chart how we can divide a number. So how we can use this model to help us divide larger numbers to solve a larger division problem. So our first step is draw the chart. And then we want to put our dividend, so the number being divided, into the chart. So our number here is 426. So I'm going to draw some circles to represent each of the numbers. So that's 4 hundreds, 2 tens, and 6 ones. Now, we're talking about dividing this number by 3. So my next part is that I need to draw out a table below it of how I'm going to divide this up into 3 equal groups. So again, I'm showing hundreds, tens, and ones on this chart, and I'm going to be breaking it up into 3 sections. So 1, 2, 3, because that is what our divisor is. So now what I need to do is I need to take each number from the top chart, and I'm going to show how I'm basically going to share that out in the different place values. So let's start with the hundreds. So I have 4 hundreds, so I can give each group 100, but I still have 1 left over that I can't use because I couldn't fairly just give it to one of the groups and then the other ones don't get that 100. So we're going to do something called unbundling. And when I unbundle a number, I'm talking about how I'm basically sharing it over to the next place value. So understanding that 100 is the same as 10 tens, because I could count by 10 times, and that's 100. So I'm going to bring this over here and unbundle it. So break it out into those 10 tens. So now I've used it and brought it over to the tens. So kind of like regrouping, or what we might have called borrowing in addition and subtraction. I'm now using that kind of same method with division. So now when I look at this, I have 10 tens and 2 more. So I have 12 tens that I can share down here below. So let's try that. So I could give each group 4 tens. And that should add up to 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've used all 12 of them. I can just cross them out as I use them. Now if I look at my ones, what I have left over here now is I have 6 ones, and that's easy to share into 3 groups. I just put 2 in each group. And now I have shared everything out and I don't have any leftovers. So I've distributed out into 3 groups, and the quotient, so the answer to my problem, is the value of one of those groups. So it would be this much. So 142. So 426 divided by 3 is 142. So what we need to understand for the process on solving these with the place value chart is, one, you have to draw the place value chart and put the numbers in there to be represented. Then below it, you need to draw out how you're going to distribute it by each place value and share it out fairly, and understand that one of those groups is the quotient or the answer to our problem. So we're going to try that with another problem, and this time I'm actually going to show you, as the second part of it, the standard algorithm that goes with division. So let's look at this with a different problem. This time let's look at the problem 726 divided by 3. So our first step was, let's draw the place value chart. Let's put the numbers on here. So there's 726. Next, I'm going to show my groups, my distribution, and I have 3 groups that I need to break it up into because we're dividing by 3. That's our divisor. And then I'm just going to start breaking that up. So I have 1, 2, 3. I can give each one another one, and I have this guy left over, so I need to unbundle. So I'm going to unbundle it over here. Now altogether in the tens, I have 12 again for this problem, and I know that I could give each 4, and I have fairly shared all of those tens. I would do the same for the ones. So remember, the quotient is the answer of one of those groups. So the answer here, I have 2 hundreds, 4 tens, and 2 ones, so 242. So now let's relate that to the standard algorithm. I'm going to show you what the standard algorithm would look like for that, and hopefully you start to see some connections here, and we'll talk about those connections. So we would write it in standard algorithm like this. So 726 divided by 3. And now I'm going to think about how many times I could break that up. So how many times would 3 go into 7? Well, I know I could get it in there 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. And look here. Look how I was able to get it in 2 times there. And then I had 1 that I had to unbundle. I had 1 left over. So when I subtract, look how I have 1 left over. Pretty cool, huh? So that is that group of 10 that I brought over here. My next step is I'm going to bring this down, bring that 20 down, because I can't divide the 3 into the 1 anymore. So now I'm going to say, okay, 3, how many times will 3 go into 12? Well, that's exactly what I did over here in this area. How many times did 3 go into 12? Well, I was able to get 4 in there. So 4 times 3, that happens to be 12. I didn't have any. I had to unbundle. It kind of worked out perfectly. And we're seeing how that's working out perfectly again. Then I bring down this 6, and I think about how many times would 3 go into 6? Well, 3 times 2 is 6. And look at that, how I had 2 over there. And I have none left over. So see how we got the same answer? 242. So this can be a little tricky to work with this standard algorithm, but I think working through this today of showing the place value chart method and then just giving you a glimpse of the standard algorithm next to it, just so you can start to see that connection, I think will be really important for your learning today. Now, when you solve some practice problems on your own at the end of today, if you do it without using standard algorithm, that's totally fine. But if you want to give it a shot and try both methods side by side, that's okay too. So let's try it with a couple more, and then I'll give you some practice problems that you can try on your own. All right, so the next problem I'd like us to work on is 489 divided by 3. So my first step on this one is I'm going to draw that place value chart. Then I'm going to plot my circles on there. So 489. My next step is I'm going to show what I'm distributing by. So remember, we're breaking this up into 3 groups. just to help you see, like, we're breaking up 489 into 3 equal groups, and it's a really big number, so it's kind of hard to think about. So if we have an organization method that helps us see it, I think it makes it a little bit easier. All right, so let's start with breaking up the 400s. So I can get 1 into each group, and then that one I'm going to have to bring over and unbundle. So remember that 10 tens is the same as 100. That's why I'm drawing 10 circles. But it's in the tens place now, so I have to make sure that I'm still showing it as tens. Let's divide that up. So I'm going to start with just using 3 at a time. And let's see if we can get these in here. 1, 2, 3. And that kind of worked out just perfectly, didn't it? And now let's try to distribute those ones. So I'm going to do 3 at a time again, just to keep my brain organized and I don't mess up. And now I've evenly distributed. So remember, the quotient, the answer, is one of those groups. So 489 divided by 3, how much would be in each group? How much would be in one group? What's that value? Well, I've got 163. 163. So again, let's kind of show that side by side. What would it look like if I did the standard algorithm? So I would draw it out like this. 489 divided by 3. 3 will go into 4 1 times. And then I go 1 times 3 equals 3. And then we subtract that. 1 left over. I'm going to bring that 8 down. So basically, kind of the pattern when you're doing this is you figure out how many times does it go into the number, and then you take the number times the divisor and put your answer here. Then you subtract and bring down the next number. So now I have 18. How many times will 3 go into 18? Well, I'm thinking 3 times 6 is 18. And look at the connection over here. So when we had that 1 left over right there, that's this guy. That's that 100 that we had to bring over and unbundle. And then when I have the 18, all of this was 18. And if I was able to get 6 in a group. All right, so that's none left over, which I didn't unbundle over this way, so that didn't happen. So I don't have anything to bring over there. Now I just bring the 9 down. And 9, 3 times what equals 9? Well, that's 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. And I get nothing. So my answer matches up, 163. So you have to really specifically follow that pattern of divide. So figure out how many times it goes into it. Multiply the answer together. Subtract and bring down. Let's try it with another one together, and this time we're going to change the divisor. We've been using 3 as our divisor. Now we're going to try it with a 4. Of course, you can do it with any number, but let's try this. So 688 divided by 4. So first, let's draw that place value chart. Hundreds, tens, and ones. Next, let's get the number on there. 6, 8 tens, and 8 ones. Now this is going to look a little bit different. Can you think about why it's going to look different? Because you've got a 4 there now, right? So we need to break this up into 4 groups, not 3, because we're talking about dividing it into 4 groups. All right. So let's start with our hundreds. We can get 4 of them on here. And then I have 2 left over. So I have to unbundle these 2 over here. That's going to be a lot. Do you know how many I'm going to draw? 20, right? It's quite a bit. So let's talk about breaking those up. Since I have groups of 5 right here, look at this. I'm going to go ahead and put 5 in each of these groups. And then we'll worry about those other ones in just a second. So I've used these. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Get everybody one more, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've used up those, and I don't need to unbundle anything else. And then over here, can we get some groups of 4 going into our 1s? Yep. And it comes out just perfectly. So quotient is how much in one group? So 172. Okay. So let's talk about what that standard algorithm would look like for 688 divided by 4. So think about how many times can you get 4 to go into 6 without going over. So I know I can get one group of 4, and then I think 1 times 4 is 4. So that's my multiply part. So I divided. How many times will it go in was my question. I multiplied 1 times 4, and now I'm subtracting, and then I bring down. Now I think, okay, how many times will 4 go into 28? So 4 will go into 28 7 times. Do you notice how that's matching up over here? And it comes out perfectly to 28 with 0 left over. Then I bring the 8 down. 4 goes into 8 2 times with none left over. So our standard algorithm for division at a 4th grade level is not something you have to know right now. It is, I think, good for you to see it and start to see the connection of it, how it works with some of the other division models that we use to help you start to understand how it works. I think it's always really important that whatever model that we use, that we understand why it works and how it works so that we have a deeper understanding of math. Now, for some additional practice, I have 4 problems that I want you to write down, and I'd love for you to try them on your own and communicate them with your teacher. So write them down with me now. The first one is 486 divided by 3. The next one is 324 divided by 2. The next one is 549 divided by 3. And the last one is 655 divided by 5. So remember, your first number is your dividend. Your second number is your divisor, so how many groups you're breaking it up into. That's really important when you draw the model. And then your answer is your quotient. And that's one of the groups that you've distributed to. So try this with the place value chart and practice the model that we used for that so that you understand how to divide larger numbers. And if you're feeling brave today, maybe see if you can try the standard algorithm for division to try to connect those two. And it's also a great way to check your work. If you got the same answer using both methods, that's a pretty good sign that you're on the right track. So thank you for taking on this challenging division lesson today with me and for giving it a shot, even though it can be very, very difficult. Practice just like you would your multiplication and you will get better at it. I hope you have a great rest of your day and that you keep growing by learning math.